Hey everybody! I'm back after just 2 weeks. I didn't think it would happen, but here I am! Welcome to the For Knit Sakes podcast. I am Allison. I am coming to you from El Paso, Texas, and I know I keep saying this in every single video where I compliment how great the weather is and how it's going to get hot. And I promise it does get hot in between when I film, but I always seem to choose these really great days where there's a nice breeze coming in through the windows. It's only supposed to be like 73 today, which is fabulous for the desert. And I know I'm going to be maybe singing a different tune when it comes to the summer. So at least for today, I'm going to enjoy the nice cool weather where I can wear my shawl and 3/4 length sleeves without having to worry about being hot, because tomorrow it's going to start getting back up into the 80s again. Okay, little administration thing. I did start a Ravelry group. I don't have a picture for the group yet. Like I don't have a cool like little square image like everybody else's podcasts do, but I'm working on it. So I will put that in the description box below if you want to find me. I'm the only one in the group right now, so there's plenty of room to spare. If you are new to the podcast this week, thank you so much for stopping by. I really do appreciate new viewers, and I really love my returning viewers. Thank you for coming back and spending some time with me. I have lots to share this week. I'm going to try really hard not to say a whole lot, but then we might have some really long silences while I try to find my words that I want to describe things with. So if you want to find me on Ravelry, I am For Knit Sakes, all one word. And if you want to find me on Instagram, I am For Knit_Sakes. I know I said that incorrectly on my last podcast. So if you want to find me on there, please add me as a friend or follow me. I'm always happy to answer any questions. If you have any messages you want to send me, I have an Ask Me Anything thread on the group if you want to know anything about me. I give a little bit here and there. I used to be a music teacher. I like to collect lots of certifications since I've been staying at home with the boys. And I'll talk a little bit about something about my life at the end of the episode. So we are going to dive right in. Thank you so much for joining. So let's do some finished objects first. Now the biggest ones that I did finish, I've already donated, and those are my Project Linus blankets. I went to the meeting this past Saturday and it was full of lots of very warm and welcoming people. There was maybe like 24 or so there, and when you get to the meetings you have to sew on these little Project Linus tags that go on all the blankets, and they are donated to all of the local hospitals. A couple go to Child Protective Services, and we actually, I say we, I've only been to one meeting, but I already feel like a part of the community. They need about 250 blankets a month, and this month there was only 112. They say because so many kids, and it's so sad, so many kids cycle in and out of the NICUs and the PICUs that they don't have enough blankets to go around to all the hospitals every month, and it makes me so sad. So I'm gonna try really hard to at least crochet one blanket a month. And they also take quilts, and if you like to do the fleece blankets with the crochet borders, they take blankets like that too. So if you can find a Project Linus group that is in your area, I really urge you guys to try to donate something. I know it takes a really long time to knit blankets and crochet blankets and stuff, but the kids are always so appreciative, and it helps me feel like I'm doing something for the community when I make those blankets. And if you don't have the materials, my Project Linus has donations, so I was able to pick up a couple skeins of some yarn to supplement what I already have. So I picked up some of this tweed, cream tweed, I guess, and I'm going to pair it with this burgundy color here. Doesn't look very burgundy. There we go. That's a little bit better. And so even though I'm not a really big fan of acrylic when it comes to knitting, it's really easy to crochet with, so I can get a blanket out in just a couple weeks. So I'm hoping I can get that blanket done. I might need to add one more skein because our smallest requirements for a blanket is 40 by 40 inches, which is actually really big, but they're trying to get it so in like the NICU, the plastic, not plastic, where the kids lay in, it has to be able to lay over the sides without falling off. So that's why they require them to be 40 by 40. So I'm going to try to finish that up in the next month. I'll probably just do another corner to corner crochet blanket just because they're fast and easy. If I have the funds, I might do some easy fleece blankets with a crochet border just because those are easy and fast to finish. And then that's another blanket donated. So I'll just pop some pictures in. I did a corner to corner blanket with some yarn that was donated by a internet friend, Wendy. And I also did the Colorful Wedges baby blanket by Pearl Soho. That one took a really long time. I actually didn't even do all the wedges because it was so big by the time I got to the second to last wedge that I decided to bind off early. So that was my biggest finished objects that I did. I actually waited till the day before to weave in all the ends and snip all the edges, and I have a picture on Instagram of my little pile of yarn pieces when I was done. So that was a big accomplishment. I'm hoping to get another one done, and I have a month to do it, and I have other things going on. Eek. And my next finished object, I finished my Mary Mercury socks. I call them Mary Mercury because the yarn by Legacy Fiber Arts is pretty red. This is all that I have all of this left, so plenty to do. Some swaps for minis to put in my blankets, and I did the toes in just some Cascade sock yarn in a really dark purple that I just kind of had sitting in my stash. So I made them shorties. I can't put them in the Girls in the Yarn Cafe shorties in a shoebox because I cast them on before April 8th. So these are just fun. And I actually got around to washing all of my socks, which was really fun. I throw them in a bag, and then I toss them in the wash and put them on the wool setting since most of them are wool nylon blends. I didn't have any felting this time, so I'm really happy about that. And then I put them all in my little shoebox here. These are all the socks I've done in the last year, minus a pair for my husband, a pair for my dad, and then a pair of shorties for my son. And so now I can add these to it. So Mary Mercury socks. This is the Mercury sock pattern on Ravelry, free, easy lace. This is the 60 stitches, and I did these on Chiaogu's size 1s, which I'm going to talk about Chiaogu's versus Hayahayas again in just a second. So finished object, and now we're going to go on to a half object because I already cast on the second one and I finished it, and there's still a really long tail on the ends. These are some shorties made with some Patton's Croy that I had originally gotten for Levi, my oldest, to knit him a pair of socks, but then he decided he wanted a different one, and I'll show those in just a second. But some shorties. This one I did an afterthought heel. So, and I actually had to stitch up some holes because these socks are so tight that the holes are really noticeable, and I should have picked up the extra 2 stitches when I picked up the stitches to do the heel. So Patton's Croy for the stripy part of the sock, and then the heels and the toes are Knit Picks Bright in highlighter yellow. And when I originally did these socks, I made the mistake of counting this sock, which is done on 1s. I counted to see how many I needed for the foot, and I only got like 50 to 55. And so I only did 55. But I did these on size 0s. And so I put it on, and it was super stretchy. It almost actually fit Levi's foot perfectly, minus the heel. So I ripped out the toe, and I fixed the decreases. I changed all the stuff in my notes on the project page. I originally decreased on every other row down to 16 on each needle, and then decreased every row down to 8. So what I did is I ripped it out until I got to that 16 on each needle, and then I just kept decreasing every other row to give me like the extra 5 rows I needed, and now they fit much better. They still might fit Levi's foot just a tad bit better than mine, but it's okay. Just a plain rib sock. So I did a 3x1 rib on the top, and then changed to a 5x1 rib for, I think I only did like 12 rows for the leg, and then finished it for the foot. So you can kind of see the teeny tiny ribs in there. It fits really well. Patton's Croy, plain and simple. If you have a coupon, it's not super expensive. So I cast on the second one, which is somewhere around here, and I don't know where it is. It's in this bag. I have everything down on the floor in front of me. I much enjoy podcasting on the floor because it's easier to set everything out instead of having it on a table and bending down and picking stuff up. I also did a test knit recently, and I'm super glad I have it finished for today so I can show it, for the Janice hat by Mick Béchard. If you're watching this, I'm really sorry if I just butchered your name, but he is in one of my many knitting groups that I am in on Facebook, and he was looking for some test knitters for a hat for some worsted weight yarn, and I had the yarn hanging out in my stash. I had knit a sweater for it a year ago, which I'll probably end up frogging and re-knitting because now it's way too big on me. But this is the Janice hat. So some pretty cables here. It's kind of hard to see. Here we go. So cables here, and then this seed stitch section, so it's on the bias right here. It fits me kind of like a slouchy hat. I still haven't woven in the ends. If my hair is sticking out, it's not so bad. So I'm thinking of putting like a really big fuzzy pom-pom so it'll lay a little bit more. But because of the color yarn that I knit it with, my son said it looks like a brain. So I can kind of see that now. So it might look really good in like a dark color. But I really like all the cabling. It definitely flexed my knitting muscles. You can kind of see, I think I messed up a row just from what that looks like, and then I have zero clue what happened here. It'll just be like that, I guess. But it's a really cute hat. It's made out of Cascade Avalon, which is a 50-50 cotton acrylic blend. Be on the lookout for that pattern. I don't know when he's going to release it, so if I find out, then I will put it in the description box below. But the Janice hat, Janus. It actually only took me a couple days. If you're really fast with seed stitch and some cables, it doesn't take very long to do. So thank you for letting me test knit that. I did finish another test knit for Knox Mountain Knit Company, but I'm not allowed to show them. I did some fingerless mitts, really super fast. I did it in the same yarn as this hat here, and I think I'm gonna send the finished objects to my grandmother. So if by the time I can actually post pictures of it and they're gone already to my grandmother in Virginia, then I will just be on the lookout on my Ravelry page, on the project page, and you'll be able to see what they look like. Because I think they're releasing the patterns. It's a Cal Hat mitt set for, I think it's on May 17th. Don't quote me on that. So those are some finished objects there. And now let's move on to works in progress. I think that's all. Hi again. So now we are on to works in progress, and I have a few things going at the moment. The first thing I'll show you guys is my second rib sock. It's not very impressive. It's just a little bit of a cuff and like 5 rows of the leg. If you remember, they were super short. Patons Corrigan. I'm doing these on Chiaogu 9-inch circulars in size 0. Now it's taking me a really long time to kind of get used to this. I am a continental knitter, and my hardest part with this was I tried casting on just using these needles, and I couldn't get enough stretch with the initial 60 stitches that I couldn't join. So what I had to do is I had to get a pair of circulars, and I had to cast on my 60 stitches, and I had to join in the round using magic loop for 1 row, and then I transferred them to here. Now when I first did my Christmas socks, they're over here. These Christmas socks, I did part of them on these 9-inch circulars, and I decided I really didn't like them. I didn't like how I had to hold them. I've tried different ways, like this, the claw is what I call it, wasn't working. So I tried them again just because it's nice to have options, because I don't like buying new things if I don't need to. So I'm a continental knitter, and with these, since they're just easy rib socks, let me see if I can show you. The way I hold the needles really helps. Now sometimes I get my tension wrong and I don't have enough space, so I'm like really stretching the stitches to get them to move, but I've gotten a little bit better. I get into a rhythm, and these get easier the longer that you use them. So my first sock I did them on, I was not a fan. I ended up switching to magic loop on some 32-inch circulars in the same size, but this time around it's a lot easier. Now I did the afterthought heel so I wouldn't have to switch needles or grab other needles, and do them later. And that really helped out. And the way I do my afterthought heel is I grab this is just some embroidery floss, and before I put in my afterthought waist yarn, I take my yarn needle and I thread it through the stitches. Then I knit my waist yarn, move the stitches back, knit again, and then thread another piece of this through those top stitches. So my stitches are being held by this. So when I pull out that waist yarn, I don't have to pick up stitches. It's a little bit more work, but then I'm not having to worry about dropping any stitches or anything like that. And I really like that. So it kind of saves me time later on. I may try a true afterthought heel, but I'm really honestly scared to snip and pull out yarn and then picking up stitches. It kind of gives me a little bit of anxiety just thinking about it. So I don't think I'll do that, but working on these, my little yarn ball stitch marker here. Hold on one second. Hey, sorry, my littlest needed me for something. So my next work in progress are some 2 at a time socks for my son Levi. He chose, it was originally supposed to be that Patton's Crow yarn, but he chose this blue Regia. It's piano color, so it's not their usual self-striping. It is like a marled variegated colorway. And so I put in some bright yellow heels because that's what he wanted, and he wanted shorties just like mine. So I think I did 7 rows of the cuff, and then I did a few repeats. It's just the blueberry waffle pattern. Super close. It's so pretty. I'm gonna have enough that I might be able to make myself some shorties. I haven't gone too far. These are on some Chiaogu's 40-inch circulars, size 1s. I did start them on Hiya-Hiyas. Now, all you Hiya-Hiya fans out there, what am I doing wrong? I can't stand them. Do you see how nice and flat this cord is? It's not springing, it's not doing anything funny. These are my Hiya-Hiyas. I don't even know what to say. Every single time, especially if you're knitting 2 at a time, I even like laid this out flat in a book to try to get it to lay flat, and it's still boing. Every single time I finished a row, it would have bang, and it would spring. What am I doing wrong? Did I get a pair of bum ones? Should I have gotten a shorter cord? I really dislike using them, and it doesn't even bother me. I was talking to my friend Lauren from the Wool Pickle months ago, and she was trying to decide between some Chiaogu's and some Hiya-Hiyas. I think she ended up buying some Addies instead. But like, even look, the tips really aren't that different. These are both size 1s. Hiya-Hiya's on this side, Chiaogu's on this side, and look, Chiaogu's just gonna win hands down for me. Does anybody want to trade? Does anybody have Chiaogu's that they don't like? And I'll trade you some size 1s, because these aren't working for me. Like, come on, I can't do it. And I had some size 1s. Here they are. Or no, size 0s. These are just Lana Grossa, I think, brand. Same thing. I set them inside of a book, but as soon as I put them away for storage, they do this. Are you not supposed to store them in the packages when you're not using them? What am I doing wrong? I've even tried boiling water with, not boiling, but really hot water with my Knit Picks ones. My Knit Picks cords drive me nuts too. If I have the choice, Chiaogu all the way. I really want the 4-inch set for Mother's Day, or maybe for Christmas, because I have the 5-inch set, but you can't use that with the shortest cords because the cord's not long enough. So there's not enough slack to knit in the round with the shortest ones. But back to my socks. So, has my little crab stitch marker. Got those from Mothy and the Squid. Love her yarn. I want more of it, but it's just so expensive. Suck it up and buy it sometimes. So, not too far. I'm on the foot now, and he'll have some highlighter yellow toes on these as well. But since it's summertime, almost summertime, although I say that and it's 73 degrees today in El Paso, I'll be done with those soon. Blueberry waffles 2 at a time. Levi's socks are 52 stitches, and they fit him pretty well, and I'll have some room to grow for them to stretch, but he can fit into my 60-inch stitches with the heel being a little bit big. So, and I'm housing that in my homemade bag that I made years and years ago out of just some canvas and some cotton. The inside matches. This is one of my better project bags that I made. Love it so much. And I have that matching big one somewhere. I rearranged where all my knitting stuff was and put some things in a closet so it wasn't all sitting on the floor. And now I can't find everything. Okay, my next one I haven't cast on yet, but I did show a picture of all the yarn that I unraveled from a sweater for the Great Unravel 2017, co-hosted by, let me see if I get all this right, Taylor from Wool Needles Hands, Caitlin from Wool Jewel, and Yarn to Table by Celeste. I got it! So, this is all 100% wool. I would say it's probably a good worsted weight. I should probably find some worsted to compare it to. So some worsted weight, and this isn't all of it. I still have 2 balls of it. I need to wind it. This was after I soaked it in the tub to try to get some of the kinks out. But I'm going to be knitting a harvest cardigan for my son Levi. He says he wants a wool cardigan to wear. I'm going to put some button holes in it with some buttons so that he can maybe wear it on the slightly cooler days for school, because he gets on the bus relatively early. And in El Paso, when we got here in the winter, like December, January, it was in the 30s in the morning. So he was wearing like a big, heavy winter jacket to school. By the time he was coming home, he didn't really need a jacket, or he would need a lightweight jacket. Sorry if the wind is affecting the microphone again this week. I have the window open just because it's so nice and pretty. My hands are actually freezing, but I'm enjoying it as much as I can because I know it's not going to stick around for long. So I will be casting on, it's a lot of wind, the size 6 to 8 year one. I don't know if I'm going to swatch. I'm not a big swatcher. If it's too big, then he can just grow into it, right? And if it's too small, his little brother can wear it. That's just the way I feel about it. So hopefully that'll get started soon. I was trying to finish everything because Hohi's Mystery Knit Along starts on Friday. Today is Tuesday. No, today's Wednesday. You guys, I'm so sorry. Today is Wednesday, May the 10th. I knew I had to get this done today because my oldest is going to the zoo tomorrow, and I'm planning on meeting him there. So I wasn't going to be here tomorrow morning, so I had to get it done today. So that is a work in progress. I need to wind it up and hopefully cast it on so I can use the smaller needles before I need those needles on Friday for Hohi's Mystery Knit Along, which I tried to find my bag of all the cakes that I wound up, and I don't know where it is. I'm hoping it's in the closet. I might go looking for it because I want to show all the beautiful cakes and everything for all of you guys. So that, I'm still working on my 3 pips Mystery Knit Along, but I haven't done anything. I would like to try to get all the striping done so I can break the yarn and start using the variegated to do the lace section, but I don't know if I'm going to get to it with Hohi's Mystery Knit Along starting on Friday. We'll see. Since I got all my test knits out of the way, I have a couple days to do some mindless knitting. I'm so sorry for this sniffly nose. It always seems to be when I start podcasting. I think it's because I'm sitting in front of the window with the wind blowing. Maybe it'll get better. I don't know. Okay, another work in progress that I haven't decided what I'm doing with. I found another sweater at the thrift store here at El Paso. Very, very low inventory for sweaters. Excuse me. Because it's El Paso, it's the desert. But I did find this gigantic double XL St. John's Bay 100% cotton sweater in the men's section. It's this very marled light blue color. And I started unraveling this sleeve, but I'm going to dye the rest of it. It's 2 plies. Let's see. There we go. 2 plies together. But what I found out as I was unraveling this sleeve, which I'm going to have to do for the other one, the manufacturer alternated skeins of yarn. So I have to rip one row at a time, both, wind the 2 balls, and then rip back. So it's not one of those that's just going to rip side to side because they like cross over each other, which I'm not looking forward to. The actual dismantling of the sweater was really difficult because even though it had good seams, they almost like sewed it together. So I had to go through and snip every single little thread in between. There's those little horizontal bars. And if you go watch the Dunkelgrün podcast, I don't remember, maybe it's not episode 5, where she started unraveling her cotton sweater. She had the same issues where she had to use a seam ripper and rip every single little teeny tiny. I couldn't even just like pull and rip apart the seam, each little teeny tiny horizontal row. And then they had this extra knit band over part of the collar, so I just cut all that apart. And I'm gonna dye all of those pieces downstairs with just some RIP dye and some navy blue. And I'm thinking, since this is about like fingering weight, I'm thinking about making a Madewell sweater with some striping down at the bottom if I don't have enough after I dye the other pieces, because this is only one sleeve and it's a double XL men's sweater. So I'm hoping I can get a Madewell, maybe just do some 3/4 length sleeves with the navy blue. And maybe I might be able to do the summer garment cal for Candace and stitching the high notes with Joe. Maybe. Okay. Lots of plans, just see if I actually get it done. So those are my unraveling things. I'm probably not going to get the blue sweater done for the Great Unravel because I believe that's done on June the 17th. But the harvest sweater in the kid size shouldn't take me that long. When I knit myself the harvest sweater, it only took me about a month. And that was monogamous knitting. I think I was only working on that project and it took me a month. So we'll see. I'm hopefully going to cast on that sweater today or tomorrow so then I can have Hohies ready for Friday. Who else is doing that one? Anybody? Anybody? I hope so. I love her patterns. I have so many. So those are all my works in progress, and now we will move on to some acquisitions. Now I know this podcast is supposed to be me knitting from just what I have in my stash, including, you know, thrift store bought sweaters that are taken apart. That's allowed, and I can buy patterns. But I have had some yarn sent to me, and I did have a Michael's gift card that I used to buy some sock yarn for my youngest son, Oliver. He wants some socks too, which I find amazing. This kid wears Crocs every single day of his life, but he wants some socks. His socks haven't been worn in months. I don't even remember the last time he's worn socks. Does anybody else have kids like that? They wear Crocs and then the Crocs start to smell terrible, and it's not even summer yet. I'm not looking forward to that at all. And we dyed some yarn this past weekend. This past weekend, yes. And so I have a bunch of yarn to show for that. So it's all yarn that I haven't bought. It's yarn that I had in my stash that I either changed or got sent to me or I used a gift card. All loopholes. Okay, so the first one, I didn't get to show this last time, but I did mention that my friend Melanie sent me 2 skeins of Piraten Wool yarn when she sent my new pour over. Coffee pour over. Our other one had cracked, and so she was able to locate a new one for me, and she sent some yarn along with it. She's new into her knitting adventures, and she is actually in the same area as Caitlin from the Wool Jewel, so she also got to dye some yarn, which is really fun. But this is the second skein that she sent to me. I don't remember the numbers. Piraten Wool doesn't name their colorways. She just does numbers, which I really like. I would never be fancy enough to think of cool colorway names, but I really like this skein. I'm pretty sure they're going to be socks. This is just, I think it's 75-25. I don't have the yarn bands. I put them in my Ravelry stash and then I tossed the yarn bands. So really pretty navy blue with some pinks, magentas, some bright yellow, some bright green, and some white spots. So really pretty. I think they're screaming to be some socks. She does such a good job. I wish I was back in Germany because I would order all the time from her if we were. So that's the first one. Oh no, my thumb is so stuck right now. Oh, let go without messing the yarn up. Whew. Okay, come on, let go. There we go. I can never skein them up to be nice and pretty. They always end up too fat. But I love it. And then me and Oliver went to Michael's earlier this week because I had to run some errands and it was on the way on the east side of town. And he picked out some Patton's Croy yarn. He was originally going for rainbow, but he ended up picking up this very fall-ish skein. I don't remember the color, or ball. I only buy one whenever I buy these because I can make a pair of socks for myself with 50 grams of sock yarn, and these come in 50-gram balls. And so I only bought the one for him. And then I'll still have enough to put in my blanket, wind up some minis for my friend Polly, who I'm still sending stuff for her honey beekeeper's blanket for her honeycombs. They look like little honeycombs. So I'll make some socks for Oliver, maybe do some navy blue, or maybe I have pickle juice also in the Knit Picks Brights, which I think might look really cool with this. So those are two. This was sent to me. This was bought with a gift card and a coupon, less than $4 for a 50-gram ball. Always go with the coupon. And then we had some knitting adventures. It's getting really windy. I hope that doesn't affect it. Not knitting adventures, dyeing adventures. I had this Cascade. It's not superwash, unfortunately. This Cascade wool sitting in my stash for a while, and it's just plain white. And so I let the boys hand paint some skeins with Wilton gel icing dye. The ones that come in like the little pots. Really easy. So I soaked this along with this. This was over dyed from this. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Sorry if it's really loud. I should probably podcast with the window closed. So I let this soak overnight in a vinegar water solution, and I mix up the dyes beforehand with hot water and like little splashes of vinegar in the mason jars or the Pyrex containers that I used. And we used purple, blue, orange, yellow, and green. They picked out the colors that they wanted to do. And then the next morning we pulled out some of the spongy paintbrushes because they pick up a lot of the dye, and then we squished it into the yarn. I wish I had taken pictures and I didn't. I'm so bummed. But this one was what my son Oliver did. This one's probably like my favorite just because I think it meshes well all together. I tried to teach them about, you know, colors that blend well together, colors that would turn brown if we want to do it, because Levi originally wanted to do blues and oranges. And while, you know, I don't want to stifle some creativity, I kind of told him like, it's going to turn brown. And he was like, okay, well then how about this and this? So his was this, which was blue and purple. This one didn't have a whole lot of white in it, maybe just a little bit here and here. So his turned out really well. They said they want some hats. I think I'm going to do the Tin Can Knits barley hats, I think they are. Another free pattern that comes with like the harvest sweater. You can just Google Tin Can Knits and it's like their beginner pattern collection. And then this is one that Levi did too, with we still had some leftover greens. Now I don't know how we got purples in there, but a little like dash of purple kind of ended up in the blue. And I also noticed when I mixed up my purple the night before, the next morning it had separated and it was blue. So I had to remix the purple. So if you're trying to dye with Wilton food dyes, any colors, although the green didn't separate, which I found kind of interesting, the purple separated and it was just blue. So I had to mix a whole new one, but everything else turned out really well. So this was all hand painted that I then put in the oven at 200 degrees for about an hour and a half. Now, when you read dye blogs, when you're trying to do like natural dyeing, I know like icing gel isn't, but we didn't use acid dyes. I don't want to have that around my house. I already have to have a gluten-free kitchen for my son Oliver. I don't want to put anything toxic in my kitchen. I don't have the space to have extra dye pots anywhere. So this is my best bet, and everything turns out bright. So just in case, I'm going to try to experiment some more when I can buy yarn. I'm going to try to buy a bunch of skeins of fingering weight yarn and see if I can try to use the Wilton black to try to darken up some of the other colors. But I really like these. They're going to make some really cute hats. This one I don't know what to do with because nobody claimed this one. So Levi gets this one. Oliver gets this one. But I have plenty of time to knit hats for them just because it's not going to be cold here until about October, November. Okay, sorry. When you go back to reading like dye blogs and stuff that use Wilton or Kool-Aid, they say to buy the for real saran wrap. And I went out the night before and bought the saran wrap because I was so worried about it melting. Now it still melts when it's in the oven because I had wrapped each skein in the saran wrap, put them in Pyrex containers, and then covered the tops of the Pyrex with another layer of saran wrap. Now you can also use foil to top it with. And the plastic wrap completely melted, but it did not melt to the yarn. I could still peel it apart, but definitely buy the real saran wrap. I didn't want to take the chances of using the store-bought or the store brand because a lot of people said it melts to the yarn, and then you're just out of luck. You can't separate the yarn from the plastic wrap. So definitely go and buy the for real plastic wrap. Now this one I did in the crock pot. It ended up a little bit muddy. I probably should have just used the one color, but I did blue and I did a little bit of red. So this is the original. This is just some knitting yarn. It's 60% wool, 40% acrylic. And I had 3 of these balls and I was never going to use all of it because I already have a harvest sweater that's this color, so I didn't want to do a fingering weight sweater in the same color. So I had this left over from some socks that I did, some colorwork socks that I did, and I think I showed those in the first episode. And so I put this in the crock pot after overnight. I had let it sit in a vinegar water solution, and then I put it in a crock pot. Probably wasn't big enough, honestly, but this is only maybe like 54 grams, so it's not even a full skein. And so I let it sit in the crock pot on high until I saw steam coming up from the water. The water had a little bit of vinegar in it, and then I mixed blue and red dye together. And as soon as I saw the water simmering, I dropped blobs, not blobs, it was still liquid. I dropped bits and pieces of blue because I thought the blue would turn purple, which it kind of did. So I still have some blue and I have some purples here. And then I did some red in the spots that I didn't drop the blue. So it didn't over dye quite the color I would want it, but I still think it's very pretty. You can definitely see the red there in the middle. I think it'll knit up into a nice pair of socks. I might do the Mercury socks again just because I think it'll knit up really well. We'll just see, but close up. Adventures in dyeing yarn at home with kids. It was really difficult. Why do I keep getting my thumb stuck? I think I'm twisting it too tight. There we go. It was really hard to not just take over. I did, I'll do this later. I did help out a little bit because if not, they would have gotten a lot of white spots in their skeins, and I didn't want a lot of white spots. I'm okay with a little bit, but I don't like big chunks of white showing. And we had plenty of dye, so I went behind them and I kind of dabbed more, like squished more. I made sure to turn it around because they didn't want to touch it. They didn't want to, my fingers turned green and blue that day. And so I helped them get a little bit more saturation in their skeins. And I really like it. I've dyed with Wilton before. I over dyed like a gray skein, and then I had another one of this that I dyed bright pink that I knit a cowl and a headband for my mother-in-law. It always turns out super bright, so I'm kind of interested to see if I can kind of darken up the colors a little bit. Not that I don't love the bright, but I want to see maybe if I can get like some, this is Piraten Vola right here. I call it my Fruity Pebbles wrap. And I don't know, just kind of experiment some more. I'll never dye yarn professionally. I'll never open a shop. I mean, don't quote me, I might, but I don't think so. Just because, like I said, I don't like having acid dyes around the house. Just because I have kids running around and I don't have the space to have it outside of my kitchen. Now, if my kids were older and like situation was different, then maybe, but for right now, not so much. To use for the mystery knit along on, that starts on Friday. 5 clues, I believe, a week apart. I'm going through all my yarn bands for all my stuff. And it's supposed to be like a gigantic shawl / wrap. I'm really excited to do it. And so I caked up all my yarn about a week ago, and I wanted to show it all caked up and ready to go. And I'm gonna have a little disclaimer about this brand right here in case you ever find yourself with a skein of it and you wanna knit it up. There's a reason why I have a little teeny tiny piece of it, which I will explain in just a second. So my first one is lace weight that I'm gonna hold double. This is Anzula lace. Yeah. Is there a colorway for it? Doesn't have a colorway. Just has a dye lot. Oh, colorway Chiva. Chiva? C-H-I-V-A. Shiva? I don't know. Pretty blue. And then next I'm going to move into this Araucania green. Now, this is the one I need to talk to you about. If you find yourself and you have a skein of it, don't snip the tag off. Undo the knot, because I snipped the tag off and it snipped the skein when I was winding it. live and learn. Now you know, if you have a skein of the Araucania Nuble, don't snip. Rip the tag out instead. Just a little FYI. And then I'm going to move into this pretty blue, which now I don't remember what this is. Do I have the oh, Island Yarn. Duh. Got this at San Antonio. And then we're going to move into this Piraten Vola, which is the skein that Melanie sent me. So whites with the purples and the blues. So it goes with the blue beforehand. And then we're going to move into a different Piraten Vola, which I use to knit a... I really hope the wind isn't messing up my microphone. It's super windy right now. And then move into that. These are probably like my 3 favorite. If I was going to knit a 3-color shawl, this would probably be it. Maybe like 3-color cashmere shawl by Joji. I have a thing for Joji. So let's see if I can hold all of them. It was much easier when they were in the cakes. I don't think I'm gonna be able to do it. Maybe. Oh, but they're just not in order. But I think it's gonna be really pretty. I'm really excited to start my first clue on Friday. So that's my dream knitting for that. And then I'm going to start my blanket for Project Linus, my sweater for my son Levi, and maybe the socks for Oliver, just because I'm always knitting socks for Levi and Oliver really wants one, but I bet you as soon as I finish them, he'll either wear them all the time or he'll wear them never, which will make me sad. But I can always send them to somebody else and they can enjoy them from there. My shawl's all messed up. This is the Starburst shawl, by the way. I had showed it before, but I actually started wearing it today. It smells so good. If you have the chance to get jasmine wool wash and you like a nice pretty floral scent, get it. It smells so good. Okay, but it's got this really long tail. I talked about it when I first made it. Awkward. Okay, and so I think that's all my dream knitting too. So I have lots of plans. I have other things that I need to finish, obviously. So we're just gonna move into a little bit of life discussion. I like it when I listen to other podcasters who talk about their lives and kind of heavier things. Girls in the Yarn Cafe call it heavy cream. And 2 episodes ago, they talked about like PTSD and anxiety. And if you know me personally, I deal with a decent amount of anxiety. It really started last summer when Oliver was hospitalized for GI issues. They thought he had a bowel obstruction. We had talked months before with his pediatrician about constipation, and they kept sending us home with Miralax, and then we finally brought him in, and he got really sick really fast in the emergency room, and they had to transfer him to the German clinic because they don't do pediatric surgeries at the medical clinic on post. And so he was hospitalized. He had emergency surgery for what they thought was a bowel obstruction, and they found that his bowels were really damaged, and he had a colostomy bag for 2 months that he had reversed back in September. It was a really rough time. I relied a lot on knitting to get me through the day, to try not to feel that like rush of anxiety, like heart pumping, sweating, whenever he would wake up in the middle of the night and he would cry, which is totally normal for a 2-year-old. But because he had had so many issues, it was really difficult to not get past that at night and just have that, like, my heart would stop whenever I would hear him in the middle of the night and he'd come into our bed and snuggle with us for the rest of the night. And so he had that reversed in September, and he had some genetic testing done, and they found that he carried one of the genes that's really prevalent in patients with celiac disease. Nobody in my family has celiac. I do have like an uncle that had really severe issues with gluten intolerance, but those are 2 totally different things. Gluten intolerance and celiac are 2 very different things. And so they did a celiac panel and found that his numbers were 3 to 4 times as normal. And so they did the endoscopy at the military hospital, and the endoscopy showed that he does have celiac disease. And so he was diagnosed in November, like very early November. And then our house was packed less than a week later, and we were moving to the States a month later. So we were kind of given this diagnosis and then sent on our way. It's been a really long, how many months is that now? 5 months now? since he's been diagnosed, my anxiety is a lot better. I'm probably a little over paranoid when it comes to food. We have to have a gluten-free kitchen. If you don't know what celiac is, look it up. I probably have said a lot of not very nice things, not like mean things, but I didn't understand food allergies and celiac disease, which is not a food allergy, it's an autoimmune disorder. Oliver's body detects gluten as basically a virus, and it attacks his small intestine, which your small intestine has a bunch of like the little villi. If you watch Magic School Bus, you would know. And what it does is it causes the villi basically to like lay down. So think of it like as a shag carpet, and as the shag carpet gets older, the fibers lay down. And if those villi aren't sticking up, it's not collecting nutrients, which means his body could be nutrient deficient, he could stop growing, etc. And the only reason I'm mentioning this is because May is Celiac Awareness Month, and only 1% of the American population is diagnosed with this disease. And 30% of the American population has this genetic trait or gene, DQ2, in their system, but only 1% is actually diagnosed with the disease. And we found out, we did some genetic testing when we got to Fort Bliss and found out I'm the one that carries the DQ2 gene. So even though I don't have the disease, I have the gene that more than 90% of celiac patients carry. So it's been a lot of a learning process on cross-contamination, because it's not just like he can't have gluten. His food can't be prepared on a surface that has touched gluten. His pasta, because we buy gluten-free pasta, can't be boiled in the same water that like gluten pasta has been boiled in. So eating out has been almost impossible, just because you can't guarantee if gluten food is prepared in the same kitchen, then he can't eat it. So there's a lot of places that say they have gluten-free options, but because it's been prepared in the same kitchen as other food that has gluten in it, or knives, cutting boards, etc., grills, he can't have it. So it's been a big learning process. I've learned to cook a whole lot more at home. I've always been more of cooking at home, but we can't do easy, fast meals like the Little Caesars $5 pizzas. He obviously can't have that. And so even buying like the gluten-free food, like replacement foods, because it doesn't have the gluten in it, they usually replace it with more sugar. And because then it makes it taste better, and then you have to worry about the sugar content. So it's been a lot for our family to adjust to this over the last couple months. And my oldest son Levi actually just asked yesterday if he has to eat gluten-free for the rest of his life. And I don't think we've ever actually stopped and explained the situation to Levi. And, you know, Oliver's only 3.5 now, and he kind of understands that he can't have foods with gluten in it, but if somebody offers him food, he's going to take it. I don't know any 3-year-old that doesn't. Not strangers, obviously, but somebody that he knows. If somebody's like, here, have some goldfish, he's gonna be like, okay, yum. And he doesn't have any immediate reactions to it either. He's so new, he might have reactions to if he has gluten later on in life, but if he has gluten now, we don't know. Except for, you know, constipation is the only thing. So sorry to talk about that on my podcast. If you're a little squeamish about that, I'll put a little disclaimer beforehand. Where was I? So I needed actually, Levi's really good about if we like Google something, he likes to see pictures, he likes to understand things, he's really big into science. When Oliver first got sick, he said he wanted to be a doctor so he could fix kids like Oliver, and that's gonna make me like tear up just because it's so sweet that he would do that. But sorry, I might fast forward through this part. It's just been a really long road, and then a lot of people wonder like why I don't go back to work, because the only situation that I would be comfortable is if somebody came to our house to watch Oliver, because then I know that our kitchen's clean. I know that they're not going to give him Play-Doh. He can't play with Play-Doh because it contains wheat. And because if anything even just gets in his mouth or on his lips or in his nose or his eyes, like any like mucous membranes can make him sick. So I'm staying at home until he's like school aged and he knows to say no to gluten, and his surface that he eats food on always has to be clean. I didn't think I was gonna cry when I started talking about this, so sorry. I'm trying to be upbeat, but just because it's Celiac Awareness Month and even people in my family don't quite understand. I can't tell you how many people have asked if he's going to grow out of it. Now I understand, like, people with food allergies, how upset they get that people just don't understand. There's people, my son doesn't have a peanut allergy, but I do have friends that have peanut allergies, and I fully understand now why there should be, like, peanut-free schools, because people that use the adage of, well, there's a reason that there's EpiPens. EpiPens don't always work. I mean, they're supposed to, but sometimes depending on, like, the amount of the amount of whatever allergen that you're exposed to, if those EpiPens are really going to work. And so now just, like, I have a new appreciation just because I have a son with it. And so that also brings me to, like, we need to be more accepting of people who are different, like food allergies or anything else. And I think that's kind of where I'm going. So sorry this part's, like, so heavy, or I feel it's heavy just because, you know, my son almost died because of the impact the disease had on his bowels. And he had only had gluten since maybe he was 8 months. So it wasn't even 2 years. No, not even a full 2 years. Maybe a little over 2 years. I can't math right now, I'm sorry. And he got so sick because he had a severe abdominal infection. They kept him asleep for 2 days after he had the initial surgery. And it was just a really hard time last summer. And the closer we get to July, like, I start getting that tight feeling in my chest. I'm not looking forward to looking at my Facebook memories just because of everything that happened. So I just wanted to bring that up this week. It's just been weighing on my mind a lot recently with the anniversary of the surgery coming up and how much I love both my kids and everything that happened. So I think on that note, I'll probably sign off for this week. Thank you so much for joining me. Sorry for the tears and the emotionalness of this week's episode. I hope you guys have a really great weekend, since by the time I'll probably edit this and everything, it'll probably be the weekend. And I hope to see you guys in 2 weeks, and I'll have some more fun stuff to show, maybe talk a little bit about our trip to the zoo that we'll take tomorrow, and hopefully not so much heavy stuff next week. But I feel like I want my story known. Like, I don't want another kid to be passed off for so long that constipation is normal in a toddler. It's not. If there's constipation, then keep asking for tests. We should have been sent to a gastroenterologist immediately after we mentioned it the second time to his primary care physician, but we weren't. And if you think that's something wrong, like, advocate for your kids. Be an advocate for yourself. Don't let health issues just slide by. And I think that's kind of going to be my message for this week. But for real, this time I'm going to sign off. Thank you guys so much for being here. I hope to see you again, and have a lovely weekend. Bye.